Okay, fine. My first query to Shreyas is first thing like post lockdown, every corporate is facing a lot of expenses and downsizing. So definitely capital raising would definitely an issue for every corporate, be it in a manufacturing, textile or telecom sector. So in brief, just want to understand what in your opinion are the main three challenges in front of every corporate to raise a capital at this juncture?
I mean, of course, the first question would be if it's a short-term capital raise or a long-term capital raise. So that would probably end up being the first question. And also on the industry. So a manufacturing industry would need much more capital intensive and would need a lot more capital than a short-term than a service industry, which probably would do with more debt. So the questions are based a lot on the industry, and that's one thing that we need to keep in mind is which industry you are, whether it's capital intensive, whether the gestation period is long. So if your project is going to take 3 years to turn around, then you will need probably more equity than debt. So those are questions also you need to answer for yourselves. And in the current scenario, if you have run out of funds and if it's temporary based on your receivables in the market or your new projects has not taken off yet, so it would be better to go in for a short-term loan maybe. What is good is one of the things that has opened up recently thanks to RBI is the ECB or the external commercial borrowing. And what we can see around us is the interest rates in Europe, in US are all negative. So the chances of you getting a very, very good uh, loan from an external commercial borrowing is also there. And also a lot of banks, fortunately, Indian banks are sitting on a lot of foreign exchange. And that also means that if you are an export oriented industry and earn in dollars or in other foreign currencies, you're naturally hedged. So you would be better off borrowing in foreign currency in India. So
Correct.
if let's say HDFC is a bank which has a lot of USD with them, they can lend to you in USD, and if you're automatically hedged, it makes a lot of sense that you borrow in USD for short term. And then once your receivables are more stable or your project gets going and you start generating revenue, it will make sense that you start repaying on it. So the more important question is what kind of industry you belong to, what is the gestation period of the funds that you're looking to invest in, and whether you want it short term and long term. And for promoters and promoter driven industries, whether you want to dilute your capital, or whether you have funds to pay the interest, etc., is also a question.
Right, right. And just another question from your side. As you said, ECB is a good duly measures for the corporate to raise funds. What, in your opinion, including the hedging, what would be the average cost? Just a vague idea.
So currently, like I said, most of the interest, LIBOR or Euribor, is negative. So that means, and
Correct.
RBI has capped, I think, for parental ECBs has capped it at 3.5% over and above LIBOR or Euribor. So when it is negative, they
Correct.
would most likely, the foreign banks would treat it as zero, and then you would have a spread
Right.
over it. And now is a good time to
Correct.
negotiate. So if you're a credible industry which has a proven creditworthiness, so that also matters eventually when you're borrowing funds, you
Right.
would probably be better off in getting a ECB, which is at a much lower rate than the rest of the industry. So you can negotiate
Correct.
1%, 1.5%, or even lower than 1%. So, for example, we have an offer of 0.75% for a new venture that we are getting into. So, which is an excellent rate given the current circumstances in India. And since a lot of this business is going to be exports, so we are also naturally hedged against it. So, this makes a lot of sense
Correct.
for us, for example.
You are expecting dollar to be stable at least in the next 6 months to go.
I think currently, if you ask
Just an idea.
anything, I will say nothing is stable, nothing is certain. So,
Correct.
but it's holding as of now.
Right. Right.
Don't expect
My
it too volatile.
Right. My next question is from Pradeep. Pradeep, as you said that for raising a capital, as Shrey has mentioned about ECB, so it's a good source. So as we come to a debt, so when we raise a fund through debt for any corporate, broadly we divide, there are two sources. One is banking, either of the banks, and another one is you can talk about mutual fund, which lend the fund in the form of CP and NCD. To what extent you feel, considering the present scenario, where the ratings of the corporates are downgraded on every day, to what extent you feel it is become easy for the people to approach the mutual fund houses and banks to lend the funds?
Yeah. See, I think the current 3-6 months is a very unusual period. So, and I think the first priority that everybody has, right from corporate to mutual fund to banks, is to protect cash.
Correct.
Now, corporates who are stuck with liquidity crisis in this specific quarter, banks definitely, between banks and mutual fund, see, we should understand mutual fund has had a huge risk in the last 6 months to last 12 months, where a lot of mutual
Correct.
funds went bust. They never knew which companies they are investing in, whether it is triple A, double A. Good rated companies are going bust, and there is a huge credit the risk on mutual fund industry itself. So considering all this, and since mutual fund is playing on somebody else's money, and the liquidation and drawdown criteria is much more stringent in mutual fund, I hardly think mutual fund will be ready to lend right now. See, there is a crisis all over. ILFS, non-banking financial crisis, there is a crisis. Mutual fund, there is a crisis. So I think raising funds from a mutual fund is very difficult. Exceptions are those real companies who got good balance sheet, good working capital, and good funds on their balance sheet. So they will not have a problem. Others, I think, will struggle in any capital
So,
raise.
which debt platform you feel where the corporates in India at present, no doubt, indeed, it is a true fact that every corporate is facing a pain. No corporate is there where pain is not there. So, where you feel if a corporate wants to raise a debt, where a person can approach? Because if you ask me, my interactions with the various executive directors in a banking industry and CIOs in a mutual fund says that feasibility wise funding will be there, but feasibility, there is no feasibility. Performance has been distracted either more than 30%. So where in your opinion a person or a corporate in a need of a fund should approach to look for attractive funds, because ECB is not for every corporate?
Yeah. So I think the first source that any corporate should look at is the business itself. Especially if you are looking for funds for a very short-term purpose, that is to manage the working capital. The business itself can generate additional liquidity in this time.
Correct.
We had a scenario where beginning of April, just there was a crisis, so we wanted to draw down all available funds. We couldn't do it, and what we did was, if you are sitting on huge stocks, people were really scared, that quarter one will be a very tight liquidity market. But
Correct.
I don't think it has happened that way. People who had working capital stuck in inventories, whenever the market opened up, and because of huge disruption in supply chain, the pent up demand was such that companies were able to demand collections in advance for the orders and liquidate their inventory.
Correct. 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 Correct.
So we've seen many FMCG companies, many companies like the transport companies, they said, please clear your old dues to get new services.
Correct. Right. So my next question is for Abhijit. I think you're from a VC line. So do you considering the present market scenario where performance has been impacted, ratings are going down, whether you find some good proposals coming up your table and you been attractive towards them for investment?
Sure. So Amicus Capital is a mid-market growth fund, and we are a small fund. We are a new fund. So till just before the lockdown, we were seeing proposals coming to us, which is in our sweet spot, which is about $7 to $15 million, 50 to 100 crores range. But post, after March, we have seen a lot of proposals coming our way, which otherwise wouldn't have come to us. The bigger ones. The main reason for that is what we hear from the industry is that the bigger funds are actually holding on to their funds to do follow on capital funding to their existing portfolio. That being said, and we are still not completely, we have not invested our 100% commitments as yet. So we are seeing a good stream of portfolios and at attractive valuations. In fact, some of the valuations which we are seeing, is of 2018 valuations which we are getting. The bigger, yeah.
So
it's just a short time as well.
Is just a short question from you. Just a question from a new corporate who wants to have a VC in their portfolio. What are the top three things you look at, or which a corporate should possess to be eligible for a VC fund? Just for an idea for a layman.
Sure. So we are actually a private equity fund, but I don't think the criteria is different for VC funds as well. What we usually look at is 2-3 things. The top most criteria which you look at is strong founders. So we look at people, we do extensive detailed talks with them, meet them. Of course, during this COVID period, it's been difficult to physically meet. So we're doing VC video conferencing meeting, but we try to gauge as much as possible. So we back strong founders who have the complete knowledge of how to run a business, efficiently, and who exactly know what the future of the company is going to be in the next 2-3 years. Secondly, we look at how the company has been performing over the last few years. Like I said, we are a growth fund, so we obviously want to put money where we see that the portfolio company can grow to a significant growth over the next 4-5 years, either get bought over by another company or IPO as an exit. So we definitely look at past performance as well as future performance, and of course we do a lot of diligence. We do quite a bit of diligence before investing in any company.
Correct. So considering the present market position where stock level is very high, the receivables on a very high, vendor may be on a low side. So how you been considering these poor financial metrics as of now while considering a private equity proposals for funding purpose?
So our, the fund criteria is very clear. So if the metrics are not good, we will not go ahead. But we would also, like I said, the first criteria is to back strong founders. So even if we can give a little bit of discount to the metrics, obviously because pre-COVID, post-COVID numbers, is totally distorted because of various reasons. We definitely, the founders are the top priority. We definitely will back them, even if there is a slight, mismatch in the metrics.
Right. My next question is to Arun sir. Sir, my question is this, that every present time profitability has been deteriorated now, right? So we require a funding for anything we look for. So basically what you advised, whether to put up, promoter should put your own money into the corpus for funding purpose, or should we go for a debt as a present moment, and which cost normally 9 to 10%?
So as such, debt, as Shreyas also told that, you can get at a cheaper rate also. And currently equity, if suppose it depends fairly on your business. So for example, if you are doing an edtech business, which is getting the highest valuation at this point of time, right?
Correct.
So if you look at something like Unacademy or Byju's and all that, they are getting valued at 14-15x of their revenue, or even 20x of their revenue, right?
Correct.
We generally value even 15-20x of EBITDA or PE multiple. So it depends on what kind of business the particular industry is in and what kind of valuations going on there. That is the first thing. Second thing is, currently, obviously, between debt and equity, it is better to choose a debt, because debt is very cheap at this point of time. And if you will go for equity, obviously, currently there is uncertainty. So every investor, Abhijit may actually share his views also. Generally, there will be a higher discounting because of the uncertainty involved here. So that is why debt is a better option. Now, the underlying thing is what is your business and what kind of cash flows you can expect. If you find that even the debt servicing is going to be a challenge, then you have to go for equity, whatever discount it may be, because there are a lot of startups, they will find it difficult to even actually fund their
routine operations,
debt servicing. So in that case, you don't have any option. You have to go for equity, but otherwise you can go for that also.
My question to Shrey is, as he mentioned about one of the very key particular about equity raising, that is ECB. So my question to him is that, can you guide us for a layman corporate who are new to this world, like in brief, who are the eligible corporates who can raise ECB as in accordance with the RBI regulations, number one. Number two, what is the normal purpose which has been specified by the RBI for this raising? Like it can be utilized for long-term purposes or short-term purposes or any other purposes.
Yeah, ECB is an external commercial borrowing, so usually borrowed from a foreign country. It can be borrowed if you're a subsidiary of a foreign company. It can be a parent ECB where your parent company is funding you in foreign currency, or it can also be through a bank. It has to be your bank, and it's always through an authorized dealer, which is your local bank.
Right.
So you will ask your authorized dealer or your local bank, and they will get the approvals from RBI for this ECB once you've applied for it. And it's fairly simple. And what is good about is, like I said, RBI has the regulations around ECB has been loosened quite a lot, and now it's much more easier. So whereas originally it was only for capital investments, now if you have, let's say you're setting up a big industry and your first year working capital is also needed, you can borrow it as an ECB now. So there have been a lot of deregulations around ECB, and it's a lot more simpler. So to be eligible to get an ECB, of course, your credit rating has to be clear. I mean, your bank has to, be able to support you and to get this approval for you on from RBI on behalf of you. And there should be a supplier bank or the bank which will lend you the money. So this is more or less how any banking relationship works, and there is no specific requirements as such. And there is no now even any industry more or less can pick up an ECB now, whether it's service or whether it's manufacturing. So a lot of things like this also are happening. But the regulations around us are, if you want to buy share capital in India, you cannot borrow a debt for it. So in which case you cannot take an ECB for it. So then you'll have to go in for a equity funding from somewhere else. So if you're wanting to do an acquisition through a share buyout, then it will not happen through an ECB or any other form of debt. So you'll also have to be sure of what you're trying to do with it. And ECB is now very straightforward and a good mode currently in current circumstances. And to also add to what Arun just mentioned previously is, equity is always the most expensive form of funding. So always.
Correct. So my question to Pradeep is now that on account of the poor financial performance by every corporate by a variant margins, so like the financial parameters have been deteriorated now. So how you feel a corporate should deal with the banking industry while putting the proposals for a renewal which is coming to the now picture?
This is going to be a very tricky one. Usually banks will ask a future 12 months of forecast, which in today's scenario, I don't know how do you prepare a 12 months forecast of your business. But yes, I think again, like what Abhijit said, a lot of promoter and management experience is taken care of, is taken into account. The experience that
we lost you, Pradeep.
Yeah. You can answer.
Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. I think, so I think it's important. Again, a management and a plan of arrival is very important. And if you have a very long relationship with the bank, they understand your business model much better. So thereby the confidence increases even multifold. You cannot approach a new bank in these scenarios now.
Also, just to add, what we are also advising our portfolio companies is like what Pradeep mentioned earlier, look to the business for the first round of funding. As in, we have a couple of consumer companies on our portfolio. We have been telling them, try and reduce your inventory, try and collect as much receivables as possible. So that would be the cheapest form of funding for sure. And then, like Shreyas mentioned, equity is the most expensive.
Yes, I understand. So coming, just another questions from another side from Arun only. Like Arun, like what you advise considering how should the corporate should deal with the present, since turnover has been downsizing, profitability has been eroded. So what should be the a good parameter a person should devise out so that the future investor like Abhijit or any other private equity player, they should be more feel comfortable for investing in the company?
So I think one of the most important aspect is you need to look at each and every cost item as well as revenue item. And we need to see it in a completely different fashion, so that if there is any kind of fat, any kind of belly fat, that should be reduced. then only the organization can be fit. So and that will actually create, one is internal cash flows, two is it will also then excite the investors to actually look for your business for any kind of investment, whether capital or debt or equity.
Correct. And Shrey, coming back to you, do you think since we are working at a repo of 4% as of now, so do you consider we are sitting at a low level now, or you are expecting an upward movement from this cycle?
I think inflation is already caught up. One of the questions I think is coming up is inflation is going up, everything is getting expensive. So will we stay there or will we go up? I think there's no going down from here as far as I see, local borrowing at least. So
correct. I also, as per my interaction with the local ministry, they also advised me that since CPI is on a higher side, so you don't expect that the yield will remain here. Ultimately, they have to be reversed now. So better to freeze a long-term deal at a current scenario.
Absolutely. If you get fixed interest rates, nothing like it at
Otherwise, since things are now moving towards reverse criteria, so in case the borrowing yields of GSEC increases, then it is going to impact the borrowing cost.
Yeah. Also, like I mentioned, forex borrowing in India is a very, very worthy alternative we can see, and it's available at very low rates, way lower than our INR borrowing rates. So I have an offer of around 1.5% on a euro borrowing from HSBC. So which is excellent, and this is local borrowing in foreign exchange though. So as long as you're generating foreign exchange, this is also a very good idea now.
My experience says like ECB, FCCB, US based or Euro based funding, it is good alternative, no doubt. They are cheap indeed, but they are not available as a source of finance to most of the corporates, either on account of the financial parameters, on account of the product basket, or on account of the credibility of the promoters, because these guys are very choosy while funding. So am I correct, or you would like to add something to it?
No, I think Pradeep hit a nail on the head when he said that if you have a good relationship with your bank, they can make it happen. Additionally, what I was mentioning was a local borrowing, not an ECB, in foreign exchange, which is also an alternative available now. So a lot of banks are sitting on forex. So if they don't mind lending on forex, and if you have foreign exchange earnings,
right,
it's a good option now, and the interest rates are very, very attractive.
Right. So my question from Pradeep is this: like, considering the GDP contraction of 23% in the first quarter, how you see the demand positions in the next or second quarter has already been concluded now. So how you see the demand position for the next 2 quarters, last quarters of FY21?
Yeah, I think quarter one GDP contraction of 24%, we should not take it too seriously, or we should not be really worried, because the government really took a very hard 21 plus 14, almost 37 days of lockdown in quarter one. And when you have a nationwide lockdown, GDP is going to fall, and no other country in this time had taken this kind of lockdown. So compared to all other emerging markets and the developed markets, I think the GDP contraction in India is pretty high, but that was because of the action that we took.
My submission was this: we should not look at this GDP contraction merely from number angle. If you see 37 days lockdown, what repercussion it's done was, top line erosion is only one of the things for promoters or corporates. But what it did was, it deteriorated the per capita income of the employees, for the consumers. So entirely the buying power has been eroded, which has a long lasting impact, at least for a 1 year to go. Like, if I cannot quote a number to state how many employment have been gone, how many people have closed down their business. But since the buying power has been eroded, so definitely it is going to impact every set of a business for a long term, except FMCG. So just an opinion from everybody.
But a proverb says that if all CFOs knew what all CFOs knew, we wouldn't have been here.
No, it is just an opinion. It's just
hindsight is a good thing to have, but fortunately or unfortunately, we have it only after the stage has passed. So nobody knew what we were doing, whether it was right, wrong. So we are here now, and the only way is to look forward. What's happened has happened. And even now, the uncertainty is so high. Like Pradeep said, forecasting for a year is also a dream now. We are looking at every quarter, every month.
even I would just like to add one point to you for information purpose. Maybe you guys are aware about it. In SB, State Bank of India and PNB, what that guys are doing is, if you are putting a 1 year projection to them, they want it quarter to quarter along with the backed by production facilities. So now they are cross verifying each and everything. Now they are not relying on the projection. Even I'm optimistic in my company, like at present capacity utilization is more than 80%. Profits are good, but still cash rich, no lending, nothing, but still they want each and everything to be verified, backed by each and every detail. So apart from relying, now they want to counter check each and every information which we guys are providing to the banking for lending availability.
Yeah, the scrutiny is more detailed. Earlier they were just accepting a 12-month projection,
Correct.
but now like everything is being questioned and checked in detail.
100%. And one normal question they ask is, do you expect your rating to be stable in the next 1 year, or it will be downgraded? Which Shrey said we cannot answer the questions. So
once bitten, twice shy.
yes. So Abhijit, a question from you, like the guys on an average, which sector you are more giving a priority for VC purpose or a private equity purpose?
So our fund, every fund has its own mandate. So for us, we majorly focus on consumer, healthcare, pharma, and tech.
So sorry to interfere. Can you explain the name of your fund, something about your fund, so that the people can be knowledgeable about?
Sure. We are a lower mid-market growth equity fund based out of Bangalore. We have been in the industry for almost 3 years. Set up by two veteran private equity experienced people. One is an ex-co-founder of India Value Fund, now True North, and the other is an ex-MD of Carlyle Investments. They have set up this fund. As of now, we have invested in 5 portfolio companies. Our first investment was in a Delhi-based insurance broker called Renewbuy.com. Our second investment was in a consumer product kitchen appliances company called Wonder Chef. Our third investment was in a small finance bank based out of Jalandhar. We also have vehicle financing company based out of Nagpur called Berar Finance. And very recently, we have invested in a personal care company called M-Caffeine. And we do typically about 50 to 100 crore kind of investments, usually come in at Series B stage, where companies require growth capital.
Okay. Right. So next question is to, again, Arunji, like how you feel the present scenario going for a capital raising. So we should, as far as the short-term funding is concerned, apart from bank, what are the other avenues available for short-term raising of funds to the corporates?
Yes, such overall, if I look at India Inc., more than 1.5 lakh crore capital raising is going to happen in next 1 year. And even the banks are also looking at fundraising. Again, more than 50,000 crore will be raised by various banks. PSBs are the most. I mean, they would need at least 30-40,000 crores.
Correct.
And private banks would also need. So there is a good amount of capital requirement across the industries and across the financing companies. And the avenues are definitely primarily debt and equity. But in terms of instruments, I see that actually maybe in next quarter, there will be a lot of IPOs which will come in, and people will actually start hitting the market. So the primary route will be used more after 1 quarter when the uncertainties are getting over. As of now, the biggest problem is how long this uncertainty is going to be. People are not aware of that, whether, I mean, there will be another round of lockdown, whether again this virus will again get that kind of traction, again something else will come in. So as of now, those uncertainties are not over, and that is why there is some amount of contraction in all the activities. But if you look at GDP per se, the forecast is positive for the next quarter. It is not going to be, I mean, as bad as Q1. And in Q1 also, one of the major reason is the government spendings were completely stopped. One major part of GDP is the government spending. and the government spending were completely stopped, which are now again opened up, and it is fueling the economy indirectly. We will get to know about this maybe in next couple of quarters, that how it is impacting. So things will move positive very fast. It will again be probably a V-shape kind of. So the V-shape recovery we have seen in the stock market, the kind of V-shaped recovery we will see now in the industries also as soon as the uncertainties are over. So people are just waiting at this point of time to get
Correct.
it.
Correct. My question is to Shrey now. That Shrey, like as far as debt is concerned, no doubt we have a number of scheduled banks in India. We have a private sector banks to India, but every bank, to be very precise and very practical, is not helping the industry in the way they are expected to be, even after the instructions or stipulations by the RBI. So, since you may be dealing with a lot of many banks in the normal course, what are the banks you feel are more proactive nowadays to lend, depending upon the financial viability, for the purpose of the audience, so that they can be benefited by the way a new name of a bank, so that they can approach the bank for any lending facility?
I mean, that's a tough question, more probably relevant to the banking industry itself. But I feel that the private banks are a lot more proactive these days, considering that the NBFCs have largely, frozen, and probably secondary lending has stopped. So with a lot of banks who are sitting with a lot of extra cash, even Yes Bank is being pretty proactive that way. If we see now, so they have come up to us, for example, for channel financing our dealers now, and they are being pretty aggressive on it. So a lot of the banks, especially those who were bailed out recently once in trouble, so they are also pretty aggressive on the bank. So any private sector bank is pretty aggressive. SBI is, as usual, I mean, the biggest player in India, and is also a lot of is proactive in these matters. So I think one is we should just approach all of them if we need funds, and banks like Yes Bank or all the newer banks will always be a little more easier on the credit evaluation, etc.
Correct. But my question would be to you is that to what extent you feel NBFCs are a good player to help the corporate at the present juncture?
Sorry, this was for me.
Yeah, but
NBFC, they are themselves struggling. I don't think they're out of woods yet. And NBFCs, I think if it's a good corporate, they prefer banks.
correct.
People who are working in, work in unorganized sectors are one who goes to the NBFCs, real estate companies, a lot of other companies, truck companies. They are the one, the primary source of funds are NBFCs. I think NBFCs for some time will also have a wait and watch approach.
Correct.
If the company is worthy of raising funds, it's better to be with a bank than NBFCs.
Right. My question to the Arun is that to what extent you feel NCD issuance by the mutual fund industry is easily available to the corporates for borrowing purpose?
So as such, NCD is there, one of the option. I would probably suggest convertible preference shares as an instrument because of the underlying reasons and also the regulations after the enactment of the new Companies Act. That would give a better advantage as compared to NCD.
NCD, but don't you think so? NCD is vice versa, the banking costing, it will give you a spread of 3 to 4%.
Yeah, as such, I mean, costing is lower in case of NCDs, and that will remain. That is not a problem. But I'm just suggesting from the point of view of various regulatory requirements, preference share would be a better option if you are looking at private equity, if you are looking at lenders. But if you are going to public at large, there can be different ways you can look at different instruments.
What are the prime basic 3 criteria for the convertible private preference share issuance?
Sorry, come again.
What are the main 3 criteria a borrower should possess or a company should possess to rate the convertible preference shares?
So I think one is obviously what is the kind of underlying business you are having, and accordingly what kind of valuations you can give. Because if it is a convertible preference shares, obviously everybody is interested in the valuation. and those assumptions should be quite firm. In the current scenario, obviously there are uncertainties around, and in that, assumptions will be definitely cross-checked. So those will be important aspects in order to actually come out with that.
Correct. My next question is to Abhijit. Abhijit, my question is this: normally at a time of private funding, how much shareholding you look at?
It depends actually on the kind of dilution the portfolio companies would want to do. But we as a fund, we would look at minority stakes anywhere from 20 to 30%.
What is the market cap of a company you look at for investment?
No, it depends actually. Like I said, we go in at Series B, so there will already be existing investors in it. But we would want to be the first or the biggest financial investor in the company. So the size really doesn't matter. But there is a certain financial criteria we look at.
Okay, Arun, a question for you is this: in the present scenario, basically, education-based tech companies are getting a good valuations and a good investments from all those horizons. Do you think these valuations are going to sustain for a long term?
So I would say that currently for next 2-3 years, I don't see the valuations will go down, because these companies are getting very good market size, and also, I mean, they are on the growing phase. So their growth rates are, most of them are having more than 100% growth rate. So in this scenario, valuations may not go down. And in fact, if you look at the international players, so for example, even in this COVID time, Yuan Fudao, the Tencent group company, they have given more than $1 billion allocation for edtech companies. Oda Class has recently started in Bangalore. So, I mean, these kind of investments are coming in. So, as such, valuations will continue to be high for next 3 to 4 years range. But yes, I mean, long term, obviously things will stabilize. So the kind of valuations they are getting at this point of time is because of the market they are going to gain. And see, this COVID has also resulted into a lot of positive side for these edtech companies. It is just like the way demonetization happened, and your Paytm kinds of institutions really gained a lot. The same thing is happening for edtech companies right now because of the COVID era or post-COVID era. Rather, post-COVID is more important, because I mean that technology is now adopted, and people will actually now use that.
Correct. Shrey, your opinion on the same question?
No, I agree with what Arun said. The valuation will probably even go higher now, because this is probably going to be a lot more common than we expect in the future. Especially, I mean, forget the regular education part. There are a lot of other types of education which probably will never go back to how it was. And access today, look, I'm interacting with teachers thousands of kilometers away, where this would not have been a practical way of doing it, even according to parents before. So I see this as a booming industry as of now, at least.
Your opinion, Abhijit?
Yeah, I totally agree with both Arun and Shreyas. It is only going to go up, because it's the new norm, right? We are all doing this conference online, so even education is going to continue for some more time.
Correct.
Higher education, professional education, we're seeing a lot of startups coming up with similar ideas coming to us for funding as well.
Correct. So I think it is the last. The time has gone now. It is a fantastic session, coordinating with you guys and getting a knowledge from you guys. It is a fantastic session. I think Shri Lakshmi will coordinate now.
Yes, thank you for that very well-rounded discussion. So I see that we have quite a lot of vibrant questions in the chat. So we have Sachin Vora asking, inflation is going up. The process of fuel has gone up, so that prices of vegetable essentials, whereas employee has lost job, salaries has been cut, businessman has lost business, some of them closed business. Under these circumstances, where do you feel that recovery will happen, and how companies are expanding under the situation?
Please.
Yes, that's a question by Sachin Vora. I think this might have been addressed
So, see, I'll answer this query. See, the loss of a job or inflation, it is just a momentary thing which has been repercussion on account of the lockdown process which has taken place from April to May, precisely. So, if you ask me, I am from a textile and a garment industry. So, things are moving up slowly and slowly. Demand is picking up. Our utilization for the first 2 months was 32%. Now, I am sitting at 55%. And next 6 months, we are expecting another incremental utilization of 5 to 7%. Similarly, in another industry. So I feel with the passage of time, demand, as and when demand will move up, inflation is going to be impacted. But job lost or lost of income, it will be recovered. We cannot certainly say when it will be recovered, but yes, the time has come. We are getting the orders. Industry is getting an order, but with the passage of time, it will be sorted out.
Great, yeah. So we have a question by Karthikeyan S. He asks, is the rate of interest going to go up as per this discussion?
I think, Lakshmi, this question has already been answered by the panel. Still, if you
Right. All right. Okay. Moving on, we have questions by Santosh Kumar. Capital raising for any projects for Atmanirbhar. We are still dependent on China for even small spare and raw materials.
I mean, that is a fact. A lot of our raw materials still come from. So this is going to be a slow process, but it is a process that has already kick-started and in the right direction also. So for example, my previous employer has moved 5 big lines of manufacturing from China to India. So it has happened, but does it mean it has changed 100% of local sale to local India production? No, it is still, 30%. But we have moved from 5% to 30%. That's already a good movement. It is going to happen, but it's going to take time because this was a well existing, well-oiled mechanism via China and some specific manufacturing hubs. Let's hope that India becomes the next one.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Lakshmi, I will add to the Shreya point here. See, I think the changes have already been started taking place. In our case, we are garment, so we also get the things imported from China. So we have already shifted the plan. We have already set up a base in Bhopal. Manufacturing has already been shifted here, and I think it is bound to create more than 1 million jobs. Number one. Number two, in interaction with the agriculture MSME industry in Punjab, when we discussed, so I was informed by the Secretary of Punjab that some agriculture equipments which are basically a monopoly of China and used to be manufactured there. So Ludhiana industrialists have set up their plant in here and they are getting the orders from the Europe at a competitive rate and their entire line is booked for another 1 year. So I think something has happened for a good for India also.
Yeah, probably Bhagat, your point goes towards the last point also, saying that's how recovery is happening as well.
Correct. Correct.